The rain hammered the casket like it was trying to bury Grandma twice over, each drop an accusation I couldn't dodge. I stood there alone under that black umbrella that smelled like mothballs from her closet, whispering, "You deserved better than this, Nan," when the first family car should have pulled up an hour ago. But the lot stayed empty, just me and the minister fidgeting with his Bible. And in that hollow silence, I realized the truth she'd hidden for decades wasn't going in the ground with her. It was clawing its way out through me. I'm Mateo Ruiz, 28 years old, the black sheep of a family that raised purebred resentment in the flat farmlands of central Ohio. Grandma, Eleanor Ruiz, born to Irish immigrants who scrubbed floors in Cleveland before settling here in Millersburg, had been my anchor since I was 16. That's when my parents found the crumpled note in my backpack, the one where I'd scrawled my first fumbling confession. "I think I like boys, Dad." A foreman at the John Deere plant didn't yell. He just looked at me like I'd stolen his soul, packed my bag, and drove me to Grandma's door with a curt, "Fix him, Ma, or he's no son of mine." Mom cried the whole way, but her tears were for the neighbors' whispers, not me. Grandma? She pulled me inside, handed me a mug of her weak Folgers, and said, "Boy, life's too short for hiding who God stitched you up to be. Now eat this damn cookie and tell me everything." That was 22 years ago, back when being gay in a town where the biggest pride event was a bake sale at the Lutheran church felt like painting a target on your back. But Grandma didn't flinch. She'd lost Grandpa young to the steel mills, heart attack at 45, and raised 3 kids solo on waitress tips and sheer stubbornness. My dad was the oldest, always chasing that American dream of white picket fences and football scholarships. But he never got the memo that dreams don't come with asterisks for loving the wrong way. Aunt Lydia and Uncle Tom? They followed suit, building their cookie-cutter lives in suburbs that bled into each other like bad watercolor. Me? I was the glitch, the one who moved to Columbus after high school, scraping by on barista shifts at a coffee shop near Ohio State, where the campus air hummed with possibility instead of judgment. That's where I met Xavier. God, just thinking his name still twists something deep in my chest, like a hook you can't quite shake. It was a Tuesday in October 2019. The leaves turning that burnt orange color that makes Ohio feel almost poetic. I joined a support group at the local LGBTQ center. Nothing fancy, just folding chairs in a basement that smelled like damp concrete and instant coffee. Queer and questioning, navigating family ties, the flyer said. I showed up late, hoodie pulled low, nursing a fresh bruise from Dad's latest talk over the phone. Xavier was leading it, this tall, broad-shouldered guy with skin like polished mahogany and eyes that crinkled when he laughed, like he'd seen too much hurt but refused to let it win. He was 25 then, a social worker fresh out of grad school at OSU, specializing in foster kids. "Welcome," he said, spotting me in the doorway. "Grab a seat before you bolt. We're all runners here." I didn't bolt. Instead, I spilled about the family dinners where I'd sit silent while they praised conversion therapy pamphlets, about the prayers Mom slipped under my pillow like poison pills. Xavier listened, his pen tapping a rhythm on his notebook that felt like a heartbeat syncing with mine. After, as the fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, he asked if I wanted to grab real coffee, not the sludge in styrofoam cups. "There's a spot on High Street with killer lattes and zero judgment," he said, his smile tilting just enough to make my stomach flip. That night, under strings of Edison bulbs at Brew Haven, we talked until closing. He grew up in Akron, son of a single mom who waitress doubles and still flew a rainbow flag from her trailer porch. "She calls me her golden boy," he laughed. "Says I'm proof God's got a sense of humor." By dawn, as we walked the empty sidewalks slick with fallen leaves, his hand brushed mine. I froze, but he didn't pull away. "Mateo," he whispered, "you're not broken. You're just waiting for the right storm to clear." We fell hard and fast, the kind of love that feels like stealing fire from the gods. Weekends holed up in his tiny apartment off Lane Avenue, cooking arroz con pollo from Grandma's recipe while blasting Motown records. Lazy Sundays at Goodale Park, where he'd sketch me on napkins. My sharp jaw, the scar on my knuckle from a bar fight I never told him about. Xavier made me believe in redemption, in the messy grace of second chances. He met Grandma over FaceTime first, her waving from her floral recliner. "You treat my boy right, or I'll drive that Buick up there and whoop you myself," when I brought him to Millersburg for Thanksgiving 2020. Pandemic be damned, we masked up and hugged fierce. He charmed the crows right out of the cornfields. She pulled him aside after pie, her voice gravelly from years of Marlboros. "He lights up around you, Xavier. Don't you dare dim that." He promised he wouldn't. And for 3 years, he didn't. We talked marriage, adoption, a life stitched from the scraps of our pasts. I even started forgiving the family ghosts, telling myself distance was mercy. But mercy's a fragile thing, especially when Alzheimer's starts eating away at the one person who held it all together. Grandma's decline hit like a freight train in 22. I drive the 2 hours from Columbus every weekend, Xavier tagging along when his caseload eased. We'd find her in that sagging Victorian on Elm Street, staring at faded photos like they were lifelines. "Who are you again, Mijo?" she'd ask, her eyes clouding over. But then she'd grip my hand and murmur, "The boy who loves fierce, that's you." The family? Crickets. Dad sent a check once for incidentals, like you could buy off guilt with Hallmark money. Aunt Lydia emailed platitudes. Prayers, Ellie. Uncle Tom? Radio silence, too busy with his real estate flips in Dayton. I begged them to visit, left voicemails that echoed back hollow. "She's slipping, guys. She needs you." But blood's thicker than excuses, and there's ran cold. By spring 23, hospice moved in. Xavier and I took turns, him handling the paperwork with that quiet efficiency that made my heart ache, me singing her old Sinatra tunes until my voice cracked. One night, as thunder rattled the windows, she clutched my sleeve, lucid for a heartbeat. "The box, Mateo. Under the floorboards in the attic. Don't let them win." Her eyes, sharp as shattered glass, bored into mine. "Your truth. It's mine too." She faded then, slipping into sleep like a sigh. Xavier held me on the porch swing after, rain pattering on the tin roof, his arms a fortress. "We'll get through this," he murmured into my hair. Together. I believed him. Hell, I needed to. She passed on a crisp September morning, leaves skittering like lost prayers across the lawn. The funeral home in Millersburg was a relic, pewter fixtures, the faint scent of lilies masking formaldehyde. I planned it simple. Oak casket, her favorite blue dress, a spray of daisies because she said they reminded her of wild hope. Invites went out to the whole damn clan. 50 strong, from cousins in Cleveland to great-aunts in Florida. RSVPs, mine and Xavier's, no one else. The morning of, I stood in the vestibule, tie choking me like regret, Xavier's hand steady on my back. "They'll come," he said, but his voice wavered. They didn't. The chapel filled with townsfolk. Mrs. Hargrove from the library, old Mr. Patel who fixed her carburetor. But my blood? Vanished. Dad's text came at noon. "Can't make it. Work." As if the graveside service was a farce under that unrelenting sky. The minister droned psalms, the wind whipping his robe like a flag of surrender. I knelt by the lowered casket, mud sucking at my knees, and pulled the envelope from my coat. The one from the attic box, sealed with her shaky script, "For Mateo when the time's right." My hands shook as I tore it open, the paper brittle as her bones. Inside, a letter yellowed and folded tight, dated 1972. And below it, a stack of photos. Grandma, young and radiant, arm in arm with a woman in a sundress, their heads thrown back in laughter on the shores of Lake Erie. Another, them dancing in a dimly lit bar, fedoras and cigarette smoke. A sign reading Stonewall echoes in the background. The truth hit like lightning. Grandma wasn't just tolerant. She was one of us. Eleanor Ruiz, the devout Catholic grandma who'd baked communion wafers for St. Mary's, had loved a woman named Clara for 40 years, hidden in plain sight after Stonewall's fires cooled and society's noose tightened. Betrayal burned hot then, not just from family, but from the years I'd spent thinking I was the lone outlier. Why hadn't she told me? The minister cleared his throat, but I was already on my feet, envelope clutched like a grenade. Xavier's eyes widened from the front row, but he nodded. Go on. Wait, I said, voice cracking over the patter of rain. Heads turned, umbrellas tilting like curious birds. I read aloud, my words slicing the air. My dearest Mateo, if you're reading this, I'm gone. And the families shone their colors, faded and false. Clara was my heart, from 69 when we met at that dive in Greenwich Village. Her laugh like jazz on a summer night. We came back to Ohio for safety, but love don't bend to maps. I watched you grow, saw the same fire in you, and it broke me they couldn't see it too. Don't hate them, Mijo. Pity them. They're the ones missing out. The house, the savings, it's yours. Build the life, Clara, and I dreamed but never dared. Shine for us both. Gasps rippled through the crowd. I held up the photos, letting the wind fan them like accusations. This was her truth, our truth. And you all, family. You buried it with your silence. Dad's truck screeched into the lot then, late and lumbering. Aunt Lydia spilling out with excuses tumbling like loose change. Traffic, she lied, eyes darting to the photos. Uncle Tom hung back, face ashen. I faced them, rain streaming down my face like tears I wouldn't shed. You left her alone in life and now in death. But I'm not her. I won't hide. Xavier rose, slipping beside me, his hand finding mine. Public, unashamed. The townsfolk murmured, some nodding, others shifting uncomfortably. But in that moment, under the gray Ohio sky, truth wasn't a weapon. It was light, cracking open the clouds. The reading of the will came a week later, in a stuffy lawyer's office smelling of lemon polish and old money. The family showed then, of course, greed's a hell of a motivator. Dad blustered about entitlements. Aunt Lydia sniffled over fair shares. But the papers were ironclad. The house, the modest nest egg from Grandma's pensions, everything to me with a codicil. For the boy who loved without apology. Use it to love back. They stormed out, doors slamming like final judgments, cutting me off for good. Stung but not like before. Betrayal's blade dulls when you've stared it down. Xavier and I sold the house that winter, the proceeds seating a down payment on a cozy bungalow in Clintonville, Columbus. Close enough to the city pulse but with a yard for the dog we adopted, a scruffy mutt named Clara. He proposed on our porch swing last spring, under a sky bruised purple like Grandma's irises, with a ring engraved fierce and true. We married in July at the center where we met, rainbow banners fluttering like promises kept. No family in the seats, but the room overflowed. Friends from the group, colleagues toasting with craft IPAs, even Mrs. Hargrove with her lemon bars. As we danced to Ain't No Mountain High Enough, Xavier whispered, You shone for her, Mateo, now shine for us. Some days, the ache lingers, like echoes in an empty attic. I visit her grave monthly, leaving daisies and a fresh photo of us. Xavier's arm around me under Columbus fireworks. The family's silence is a ghost I don't chase anymore. Grandma taught me that love isn't blood. It's the quiet revolutions we wage in our hearts. Hers sparked mine, and in shining her truth, I found my own. Not perfect, but unbreakable. In America, where dreams are stitched from grit and grace, that's the real inheritance. And damn if it doesn't feel like home.